America is the richest, most powerful country in history, but its rise to the top was actually pretty unexpected. In fact, for over 100 years after its discovery, most of North America was just ignored. Let's rewind. Here's a map made right before Christopher Columbus set sail. The Vikings had mentioned finding an island way over here, but nobody knew it was a whole new continent. So, Columbus had this idea. He could find a new trade route to Asia by sailing west. Instead, he bumped into some islands in the Caribbean. He didn't find the spices he was looking for, but he was convinced he was close to India. That's why he called the native people Indians. He gathered some local treasures and rushed back to the King and Queen of Spain. "Your Majesties, I'm back from Asia." They said, "Great, where are the spices?" Columbus probably hesitated. "Well, we haven't found spices yet, but they have tons and tons of gold." That got their attention. "Go back, Columbus," they commanded. "Make them all Christians and bring us the gold." Now, a few years before Columbus's voyage, the Portuguese had already figured out how to get to Asia by sailing around Africa. So, to avoid stepping on each other's toes, Spain and Portugal drew a line right down the middle of the world map. They agreed all non-Christian lands on this side belonged to Portugal, and everything on the other side was Spain's. So, the Portuguese got busy building a massive trading empire in Asia, while the Spanish started conquering their half of the world. All the action in the Americas was down south, where there was plenty of gold, silver, and large native populations, and that's exactly where the Spanish focused their efforts. They did send one expedition up to North America in 1539, but they didn't find any gold or silver, so they basically wrote off all this useless land up north. Meanwhile, the English sent an explorer to North America while the Spanish were still poking around the Caribbean islands. This was 16 years before the Spanish even found Florida. But after that initial trip, England just waited. For almost 100 years, they didn't try to colonize America. Their first real attempt was at Roanoke, North Carolina in 1585. But that same year, England got dragged into a war with Spain, and when they finally checked back on the colony, it had mysteriously vanished. So, they tried again at Jamestown, and this time it stuck. Next up, the Pilgrims arrived in Plymouth. They were very strict Christians who outlawed things they considered sinful, like gambling and even celebrating Christmas. Soon, more and more people started crossing the Atlantic, and before long, the entire East Coast was dotted with British colonies. At the same time, the French were staking their claim to all the land in the middle of North America. This sets the stage for a major showdown. By 1754, it was time for a war to decide who really owned America. New France had a population of about 60,000 people. To even the odds, they allied with several Native American tribes. That's why we call it the French and Indian War. The British colonies, on the other hand, had over 1 million people, and they also partnered with some native tribes. So, who do you think won? Yep, the British came out on top. This war in America was part of a bigger global conflict back in Europe. When the dust settled, it was time to redraw the map. Just before the war ended, France cleverly gave half of Louisiana to Spain, just to make sure Britain couldn't get its hands on it. But after the war, France had to give the other half of Louisiana to Britain anyway. They also had to hand over Canada. So now, Britain had a massive amount of land in America. But wars are expensive, and Britain was broke. They needed money. They turned to their colonies and said, "Hey, you know that super expensive war we just helped you win?" The colonists replied, "Yeah, thanks for the help." "Sure, no problem," Britain said. "By the way, we're going to start collecting a whole lot of taxes to pay for it." The colonists were furious. "What? You never help us? We're always helping you. And how can you tax us when we don't even get a vote in your government?" This disagreement quickly turned into a fight, and that fight turned into a revolution. On July 4, 1776, the Americans declared their independence from Great Britain. And that was the beginning of the United States of America, right? Well, not quite. It took 5 more years of fighting before the Americans actually won the war. And once they had their freedom, they faced a new problem. The government they created was a complete disaster. The 13 colonies were acting like 13 separate countries, only united in name. The new nation was failing, and it was failing fast. So, the founding fathers went back to the drawing board. They wrote a brand new constitution and created a federal government that actually worked. The new constitution became official once 9 states approved it, and in 1789, George Washington was elected the first president of the United States. But the USA was still just this small strip of land on the coast. All of this territory over here still belonged to Spain. So, how did America get so much bigger? Well, over in France, a guy named Napoleon seized power and started conquering Europe. Napoleon also dreamed of building a French empire in America. He made a deal with Spain to get Louisiana back. This worried the Americans. They relied on the Mississippi River to ship their goods, and they were afraid of what Napoleon might do if he controlled it. So, America sent diplomats to France to try and buy the city of New Orleans. Napoleon was in a tough spot. He was planning to invade Britain and knew a war in America would be a distraction. He thought, if I sell all of Louisiana to the Americans, they'll be my friends and it'll make them a rival to Britain. His advisors thought it was a crazy idea. The Americans only want New Orleans. They argued, but Napoleon had made up his mind. We'll sell it all. He declared, the money will fund our war with Britain. And just like that, the United States doubled in size overnight. And so, for just $15 million, America bought Louisiana, instantly doubling its size. This was perfect timing because America's population was also doubling every 20 years. Back then, the average family had 7 children, and all those kids needed a place to live. So, many Americans packed up and headed west, where there was plenty of open land. They'd ask, does anyone own this land? Of course not. Great, because now it's mine. But Native Americans would say, these lands are my hunting grounds. The settlers would reply, you mean asterisk your hunting grounds. In 1819, America bought Florida from Spain and drew a line on the map, agreeing it would be the border between the US and New Spain. Just 2 years later, Mexico won its independence and America had a brand new neighbor. Mexico's northern territories were sparsely populated and hard to control, so they invited Americans to settle in Texas. Soon, these settlers outnumbered the Mexicans. Before long, the Texans broke away, creating their own independent republic. Yeehaw, we want to join the USA. But America asked, do you have slaves? Yes, and we're proud of it. Well, sorry, we don't need any more slave states. Then, a new president came along and said, hey guys, I'm in charge now and this is ours. In 1845, the United States changed its mind and let the Republic of Texas join the Union. Disputes over the Texas border quickly led to a war with Mexico. When the war ended, the US paid Mexico $15 million and took the northern territories President Polk had wanted. All along, 5 years later, the US bought another piece of land from Mexico for $10 million. Meanwhile, up north, the British agreed to let the Americans have all of the Oregon Territory below a certain line, as long as Britain could have everything above it. And just like that, in only 50 years of good luck and one ugly war, America stretched from sea to shining sea. There was nowhere left to expand. Or so they thought. Hello, Uncle Sam. I found an island in the middle of the ocean. Can I claim it for the US? HMM, we might need that for a future war. Does anyone live there? No, sir. Is it covered in bird droppings? Yes, sir. Congratulations, son. You're standing on US soil. Actually, sir, I wouldn't call this soil. By the way, the Guano Islands Act is still a real law, so if you're tired of high rent, just go find yourself an island. Everything seemed great. Right after America got California, gold was discovered and people rushed in to get rich. The Oregon Territory offered free farm land. America was thriving with peace on all its borders. But inside, a huge problem was brewing: slavery. In the northern states, slavery was illegal and seen as a great evil. In the South, it was a vital part of the economy. Americans had been arguing about this for decades, but things came to a head when Abraham Lincoln was elected president in 1860. Many in the South believed Lincoln would abolish slavery, so most of the slave states seceded and formed their own country. This led to a massive civil war. A lot of people died. In the end, the North won, the slaves were freed, and the United States was one country again. I'm sorry to hear about President Lincoln's assassination. Yeah, another assassin tried to kill me the same night, but I survived the stabbing. That's terrible. I mean, terrible you were stabbed, but I'm glad you survived. By the way, the Tsar wants America to have Alaska. How much can you pay? I think we can do 5 million. Maybe 5.5, but no more. How about 7 million? Sure. Great. I have approval for 7 million. We can make the treaty tomorrow. Can we do it tonight? I should have asked for more money. Great. Now America has another huge piece of land. All it needed were a few tropical islands. Hey, look at that. Some American businessmen have taken over the Hawaiian Islands and are asking the US to annex them. But the president said no. He believed America should be a just nation that doesn't misuse its power. Others feared that if America didn't get involved, another power like Germany or Japan would take the islands and use them as a base to attack America. Should America mind its own business or its own interests? America's policy of staying out of foreign conflicts was about to be tested. Something was brewing in Cuba, and it wasn't coffee. Cuba was fighting for independence from Spain. Most of Spain's other colonies had already won their freedom, but Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines remained. American newspapers covered the war, and most Americans sympathized with the revolutionaries. In 1898, after an American warship sank in a mysterious explosion, the US told Spain to leave Cuba or else Spain declared war. The US quickly captured Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines, ending what was left of the Spanish Empire. During the war, the US also annexed Hawaii, which was becoming an important naval base. After the war, the president was shot, and the young, energetic Theodore Roosevelt unexpectedly took his place. Hey, Colombia, we want to build a canal right here. Sure, just pay us $10 million. It's a deal. Actually, we changed our mind. You can't build a canal. What? But we made a deal, sorry. Hey, Panama. Welcome to the club of countries. We want to build a canal right here. Sure, go ahead. As president, Roosevelt built up the second largest navy in the world and used it to influence global politics. The Americans finished the Panama Canal in 1914, allowing the powerful US Navy to move quickly between the Atlantic and Pacific. America had become a world power, and World War I had just begun. If you want me to make more videos like this, please subscribe to let me know, and be sure to watch the next video right here. For more details on American history, I'll leave notes and clarifications in the description. See you next time.